Vadang Tibe Sister member Nakida Andu Daira Sister member Muhammad Fazil Gaddu Daira Sister member Muhammad Ali Budahudu Daira Sister member Hussein Hamid Medhumil Daira Sister member Hussein Nasir Adikuradu Daira Sister member Hanan Muhammad Rashid Mi Badaluma ki niyadu badalum ge agenda ga mi wani UNICEF ge faratun rajye ge hunnawa representative alummen ge committee a baddal kollevum man edi majlis rais liuwa fa city eka guligen alummen e befuna baddal kura medu fursat medeni mi baddaluma wadan nawa hatar befulun ge list alummen ge befeben ei mi ehma secretariat ari alun ede mi befuna dannawalu then committee member onge mi malumatට කාලුමෙන් වරෆහම් මේ children's ombudsperson office ziyare kun adi office mi mem by mozzafuna baddal ko committee infas kuri report gawa recommendations tangalum men miharu wani befuna hissa kurevifa ehemai kam malumatට kama dannawa nage Welcome to the Human Rights and Gender Committee of the 20th People's Majlis. Today, all the members are not here. Some of them are engaged in other meetings, committee meetings as well. So, I would like to introduce our honorable members first, and then we'll open the floor for you, sir, to continue. We have with us Dandu, Honorable Member Muhammad Fazil from Dandu constituency, Honorable Member Muhammad Ali from Gaddu constituency, Honorable Member Hussein Hamid from Kudahuadu constituency, and we have with us Honorable Member Hussein Nasif from Central Hemweru constituency, Mala City. And we have with us Honorable Member Hanan Muhammad Rashid from Guradu constituency. And I'm representing Nilandu constituency and currently the chair of this committee. It's wonderful to see you, sir, again, and would like to thank, before we start also, for your generous and selfless contribution giving to the UNICEF Maldives, and you have been a wonderful representative so far. So looking forward to work together to bring the changes that we are all dreaming of. Thank you so much, and the floor is open for you, sir.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, and through you to the team. I am very pleased to be in the company of very familiar people. indeed, your committee has been a great committee for this country and also for the children of this country. And on behalf of my team and UNICEF in general, I would like to thank you. Your Excellency, Maldives is a good country for children to grow and to be born in. And we are proud of the work that the People's Majlis continue to do. We appreciate your attention to children's issues. We thank you so much for ensuring that the priorities as they relate to children are reflected through legislation and through budgets. And on behalf of the team, we'd like to acknowledge that. Last week, we were in Shavieni, and before that, we were in Difushi. And what is clear is that this country cares about its children and its people. So we really thank you so much for the work that you're doing. We know that the progress you have made as a country tends to be expensive for you to maintain. We understand there are challenges with the economy at the moment, but what is clear, at least from what we see in the media and through talking to our partners, is that Majlis continues to prioritize the people, the disabled people, the children, and Majlis is paying attention to the social protection interventions. So from the UNICEF perspective, we want to thank you for that and want to acknowledge it. And we want to encourage you. Please don't get tired. Continue to do that for us. We see you as our friends in Majlis because we are not there. You are the ones there. Please, your decisions as you make them should always remember that the children are your children. They are our present and they are our future. And the way our forebears have brought us here, you would have to take us into the future. If we get it wrong, the children will suffer the most and they'll suffer the longest, and it will affect our country. So that's my first message. Mine is to thank you and to ask that you continue to remain friends of children and guardians of the good work you have done in health, education, and social protection. The second issue the Excellencies would like to raise with you is the excellent work you've done to create an enabling policy and legislative environment for Maldivian children. Your Child Rights Protection Act and your Juvenile Justice Acts are some of the best in the world. And wherever we have gone in our meetings, we have said that this is one of the best that we have. And we think that it's something that you need to protect. We recognize, Your Excellencies, that more recently young people are committing crimes. And we share that problem with you. We would not be agnostic of that problem. It's a real problem that your country is facing, and we need to deal with it. There are various approaches to dealing with that. We are of the view, and evidence is on our side on this, that crimes, young people in serious crimes, there are young people committing petty crimes. Those are usually issues of adolescence, and I know that as a country, you have culture and systems for dealing with that. We are talking of serious crimes, such as drugs, rape, and so on and so forth. We know that a lot of these children have got problems, big problems at home. And that is why we are working with your ministries to roll out a parenting program. Parenting is a very challenging issue here. In the specific case of drugs, Your Excellencies, and other serious crimes, these children are victims. They are victims. They are victims of the system. They are victims of broken homes. And some of them maybe have learned from others. They are victims. Our role as leaders of the country is to give these people a second chance and put them back on the path of development. Changing the law, Your Excellency, from 15 to 12 does not solve that problem. It will not solve it. We are aware of that. It is the easiest thing to do to change the law. It's the most difficult thing to implement the law. It will not solve that problem. Evidence abounds on that. We don't think that a 12-year-old has the physical or mental capability to decide on some of these serious crimes. We believe that they have been exploited. Some of them are exploited. So we think that the first priority is to make sure those who are exploiting children are actually prosecuted and children are rehabilitated and given a second chance. Every young person deserves a second chance. And some of us would not be where we are if we had not had a second chance. So that's the first challenge we have. We know that some young people are committing crimes. We would like to work with your government and with you to put in effective mechanisms for rehabilitation of these young people. Your Excellency, what we know is that putting young people incarcerating young people in a place where others have been incarcerated leads to repeat offenses. Our institutions, the world over, I don't know very much about Maldives, but I'll ask my colleague to come in. The world over, what we know is that if you put young people in institutions, what happens is that they learn to become worse criminals rather than become corrective. Your current law, Excellencies, allows you to do that for 15-year-olds. So let us try and see whether the mechanisms that we have in place for those children over 15-year-olds are working before we come to dropping the law to 12-year-olds. Because if you bring a 12-year-old and put that 12-year-old in an institution, the chances are that they will grow up to be a worse criminal. And that is what the world over will inherit. So our simple ask to you is that please reflect seriously on changing the law, dropping the law from 15 to 12. Our ask is that you keep it at 15. You invest in rehabilitating the 15-year-olds even before you come to the 12-year-olds. But you challenge us, UNICEF and the government institution, including the Ministry of Family and Social Development, under your own oversight, to put in programs to address children who are below 15 who are committing crimes. Because all of us care about that. But the contact with the criminal system is not the way to go. The contact is with the social protection system. So that's our message to you, that please think about it, but challenge us. Use your power to get us to protect your children. Let us all focus and prioritize it. And let us do what is good for these children, which is giving them a second chance. Because if they enter the criminal justice system, they become destigmatized. If they enter the criminal justice system, they interact with other criminals and become a network of criminals. In the short term, we will think that we are solving something. In the long run, when we are 60 to 80-year-olds, we would have created a bigger problem for ourselves. And the last point is that institutionalization is very expensive. It's extremely expensive. So if you start it and you can't finish it, the implications on the budget is huge. And at a time when you do not have enough resources to go around, you are challenged with resources. We don't think this is the time to do that. So with your permission, Madam and Excellencies, maybe I'd like to ask my colleagues to add a few words, and we'll subject ourselves to any points of clarification that we'll have. Thank you very much for having us. So,
thank you, Eddie, and thank you very much for the opportunity. I think our experience in institutionalizing, if we recall, Kudakutinga here at some stage when we brought in the children who were in Mafushi into the Willingili here, at that stage, the initial, when we mixed up on some of the problems that we faced at that time, was also, we saw it happening, the children who were in Mafushi reformatory, and then bringing them into the home where we had very vulnerable children who were coming from very vulnerable situation with a lot of trauma, and the mix was not a good. The experience we all saw in those institutions was not good. So that's one experience that we went through, how we were trying to manage those children in the institutions. Similarly, the experience from Fedufinolo, where we had the program for children who were exposed to crimes. Out of the children, if I'm not mistaken, we saw only 2 children who were able to rehabilitate back into. When they were in the institution or in Fedufinolo, they were good, but then when they came back to the same environment where they originally went, the environment was not conducive for them to, it took them back to the situation. So as Eddie said, I think we need to really look at the problem, the issues with the families, how we can support the families so that they get a chance to look after the children and see how they can actually help and help the children in those environments. And I think that's our experience as working with families. That's where the bigger issue lies. It's the families where we need to help. We need to help, and where the support is needed. If you don't mind, I would like to explain about what we are doing in Formula. We have started a program recently in late April. We have started a program in Formula, identified some of the children who were in conflict with law, those who are in crimes, who had been exploited into crimes by the gangs in Formula. We have identified those, and the government institutions who are supposed to provide services for families and for the children, we brought them together. Ministry of Education, the Ministry for Social and Family Development, Department of Juvenile Justice, PG Office, the court. So we sat down and looked at these children who are in conflict with law, look at their profile and look at the records that they had with different institutions, like the records that they had at the police, the record they had at the Family and Children Service Center in Formula. So we looked at those profiles and said, what do we identify with these families? What is lacking in these families? Identified those gaps, and then we said, like, who is going to do what to this specific family? So we came up with a specific individualized plan for each of the family. We started working. We do monthly reviews of what everyone is doing and what the progress is, and we have seen so much change with those children that we have taken up. They are going to school regularly. They have the number of contact with the police have decreased a lot. There are very few instances where the police have to go after them. But the interventions that we are doing is at zero cost, because these are the services that they should have been providing to the families. So we have used their mandates, and they are providing the services that's required from those institutions. There were two families where we had bigger challenges. One was with a single mother who had other mental issues. We got the extended family's help, got her assessed. She's on medication. And last 2 months, what we have seen with the mother is that she's productive. Her home is clean. The child is going to school regularly, and the mother has already taken up a job. And this is with no additional cost to the government. And we are seeing a lot of changes with this, but we need to really systematically work. We need to keep a regular monitoring on them, and we are also looking at the kind of support as they grow. What are the support they require? Grow in the sense like how, when they improve from one stage to the other, what are the kind of additional support, or what are the support we need to change? How do we change their individualized plan? We have plans with the institutions to start in Hulumale, but we will be working on that as well. So we see that if we do community-based rehabilitation programs, and if we really focus on the issues that the children are facing in the family, if we improve the family conditions, that there is opportunity for them to be rehabilitated back. And this is a living experience that we are going through right now. It's an ongoing program in Formula, and we'll be happy to have you to go and observe it if you would like to visit one of our review meetings. We do the review meetings in Ministry of Education, but everyone comes together. Those members from Formula institutions, they come online, and then we have this discussion to review the program. So I think that's a good example of what we can do in our communities if we get the institutions to work together and to really focus on the issue that they have, rather than focusing just on the child who demonstrate, or where we see the manifestation of the issues at home. So just wanted to share that.
Thank you. I just wanted to kind of reiterate what Eddie and Naim has already said, already mentioned as well. We do have evidence as well. If we look at the case statistics of children in conflict with the law who are referred to the Department of Juvenile Justice, that they do in fact come from very vulnerable backgrounds. And so, for example, situations of poverty, previous experience of violence, witness to domestic violence or substance abuse and so forth. If you look at violence only, around 36% of the children referred to the department have previously been in contact with the system as victims. And that's a very large number if we consider the fact that only a handful of cases of violence are actually reported to the authorities. And global evidence also indicates that family and community-based rehabilitation is what works best. And like Naim just mentioned, from our Formula program as well, we're seeing that that is what in fact works. And UNICEF did in 2013, I believe, did an assessment of institutionalization in the country previously, and we saw that, how Naim was mentioning, in terms of Alfredo Finolo and Mafushi, CTCC and ATCC, the consequences of those programs, we found that around 56% of children who were part of the CTCC program were actually rearrested within 1 year. So we do have some evidence to show that what can possibly work and what cannot work. So I think it's important to build on that evidence going forward as well in terms of what direction are we going to be taking next on this issue. Just wanted to mention that. Thank you.
Sorry. So Excellencies and Madam Chairperson, the truth is that a 15-year-old is a child. And in this room, I imagine that some of us have got 15-year-olds as children or as grandchildren. 12-year-olds are even younger. They have a whole life ahead of them. So the decisions you are making are decisions that would affect children right into their future. But a 15-year-old is a child. Your law allows the criminal system to deal with 15-year-olds. My ask to you is to challenge us to do a good job with the 15-year-olds even before we drop the age to 12. Your problem doesn't go away, which is the problem of young people committing crimes. So let's implement the law as you have it. And you challenge us to say, do things for the lower than 15-year-olds. And come back to me. And you can oversee it yourselves if that is appropriate with your mandate. My ask to you is, if you want to change the law by all means, then give us at least a year or two to demonstrate results. Give us time. You have the 15-year-olds. Let us get it right for them. Challenge us to say you have to do something because this country doesn't want its children going into crime. That's your interest. And it's something we all share with you. Please, we should not rush into putting 12-year-olds in institutions. It might give us short-term results. The long-term results, the evidence is there. It's not good. The big problem we have is trying to get the different institutions to work together. We ask that under your oversight, please, if you can help us, insist that the different institutions work together. We'll come back to you. We'll ask you to allocate resources to them, but we'll ask that you oversee the delivery of results for the 12-year-olds. So technically, Madam, we are on the same page. We want the best for our children. In fact, I am of the view that UNICEF does not love children in this country more than this government. I believe it. This country has done so much for its children and continues to do so much for children. So we are all aligned on what we need for children. I'll stop here. Thank you.
Thank you so much for showing interest in bringing out what is best for our children. And upon hearing the program that you are having in Formula, it's really inspiring us to look into how to maybe have similar programs elsewhere as well. So we are all aware of the reasons, the consequences and everything, and especially looking at the divorce rate, the single families, the economic status, and also the crime rate, the way the crimes are committed, about gang violence, drug abuse, all these, we are all aware of this. And it's now time, as you have put forward, a time to make an action that will bring about a positive and promising result in future. I would like to I have few questions in my mind, and also few things to just maybe not a question, maybe not just a rhetorical question, maybe. We have recently heard that Australia has implemented a social media ban for children, some law like that. So, looking at the current scenario of Maldives, we see that very small children are exposed to social media, or they are given like the gadgets and everything to get exposed to this. And also we all understand the negative impact of all this, how they can be used in engaging in crimes, and also how it can be exploited. They can be exploited through these mediums. So just out of curiosity and interest, what are your views about this exposure to social media and relating this to children and the current the crimes and negative impact of social media on this, and bringing a law, similar kind of maybe a law or something in Maldives? What are your views on it? Do you encourage it as an institution? And the other thing is about rehabilitation, community-based rehabilitation for children, and incorporating children in the community, engaging them in the community, and bringing their a change in their lifestyle. And about this, the current government has also a plan to create an environment for children to rehabilitate them, naming it as Hope Island. So what are your views on this? Now, we have heard a few statements regarding rehab, institutionalizing. So this is not a criminal institutionalization center as such as as we hear. We haven't seen it on paper yet, so we don't know what exactly the government is proposing. But I suppose it's not a similar kind of setup as we have seen before. So it would be great to hear your views on this. And also in the legislative agenda of this government, they are going to propose amendments to both of these acts, the CRP Act of 19 and Juvenile Justice Act of 1819. So there will be changes, and your views and considerations that you have given, we will definitely take this to the concerned authorities before they propose the amendments. So those are my views, and I would like to open the floor to the honorable members. If you have any suggestions, any questions, please, UNICEF is here to answer your clarifications. And after there are questions, I'll open the floor for you to, yeah. Yeah.
Not a question, just a view. I think we are all on the same page, and as you say, that taking kids to institutions is not a very good idea. Even if you mix a normal person with criminals, they would become criminals. That's my experience, I think.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson, and thank you, Honorable, for your observation. My background is medicine. Originally, I'm a doctor. I can tell you that the wrong place to send anybody is the hospital. If you send people to hospital, they become sick. That's what happens in the case of children or even adults. Institutions are not correctional. They don't correct them. When they come, they reoffend. And for children, to take them throughout life and stigmatize them. The first is the Hope Island. Madam Chair, the Hope Island is an institution. It's an institution. So you should recognize it as an institution. You should recognize that it's a very expensive endeavor. You should recognize that in an institution, if you are not careful, you're going to have the problem that Honorable just said. There will be good boys who are first-time offenders at risk, but there will also be bad boys. That is the starting point of the network. The challenge you face is that you start the institution very nicely in 5 years, in 10 years, in 20 years. The children who go in will come out and they become part of a network. The other thing is, how do you sustain it? You need to have a sustainable strategy. So if you have resources, there are things that your schools need. Your schools need a lot of help. Your health facilities need a lot of help. It's a very expensive endeavor. In the short term, it's beautiful. For the things that we all know in the short term are, you might be able to change a law, you might be able to build an institution. But keeping them running is another problem. And the NRC is struggling. I don't know whether you know about the NRC. But Madam Chair, if government wants to establish the institution, our ask and our suggestion is that 15-year-olds are children. They should demonstrate to you that the institution is working for the 15-year-olds. And if they do, they can bring the 12-year-olds. But until they have demonstrated that the institution is working for 15-year-olds, I think opening it up to younger children is even more dangerous, because then the 15-year-olds will groom the 12-year-olds. So that's the challenge you are going to face. So Hope Island is an institution. The next thing you have to think about is when they finish Hope Island and they are coming back into the community, we have to ask ourselves, the conditions that put them into the institutions, have we dealt with them? Because some conditions put them there. If they come back to those conditions and they are all networked, it's going to be challenging for you. I'm not a prophet of doom. All I'm saying is that great ideas, but in the long run, it can be challenging. But the law allows you to do something for 15-year-olds, so do it. And then if it works, we go to younger children. But until then, it's a promise. And a lot of promises don't materialize. In fact, some of them have negative side effects. And Your Excellency, your words resonate with us. The side effect is something we have to always think about and mitigate them. And Chair, so in terms of changing the laws, the good things about the law must be protected. And one good thing is that after a long debate in this country, decided to peg the age of criminal response at 15 years. From 10 you went to 15 years. And you did that 5 years ago or so. You haven't implemented it. So you went to 15 years. Some people even wanted 18 years, but I think you settled for 15 years. I think you must protect that. if you can, don't drop the age of criminal responsibility. What I can promise you is that even if you drop it, UNICEF will still be here working with you. So we are not going to leave because you have dropped it, but it's not a good idea to just change. So the good things about the Criminal Child Rights Protection Act and the Juvenile Justice Act is the age of criminal responsibility. And always let us remember our own children and our grandchildren. Putting your child who is 15-year-old, less than 14-year-olds in a prison, even if it's called Hope Island, might not work for that child. Social media. UNICEF's official position is that the internet is a place for good things, and the internet is also a place for bad things. So the internet of good things is something we push. Today, we are working with the Ministry of Education on something called TIBA. I don't know whether the minister has briefed you on TIBA. TIBA is an effort to create a digital ecosystem for a tech path. Tech path in the context of TIBA. It's education transformation, and we are doing tech path. It's creating a digital ecosystem that is. I think we just gave out 750 Chromebooks to how many schools? To 15 schools to help digitization. And what we have done with the Ministry of Education is that we have put protections in those Chromebooks to allow the children to learn but not to access other things that could be dangerous to them. That is the model that we would like to recommend to you, that free internet access takes children into dark holes. Children discover, but preventing children from accessing the internet and using it properly would take your country back 20 years. The model for doing that and the legislation that is required, I would recommend. And if Madam Chair and the team can make some time, we can take you to see TechPath. Is how do you put the safeguards in a computer or in a mobile phone that prevents children from accessing the darknet, but allows them to use it. So that is the first thing that we would like to recommend to this country. Bearing in mind that there are good things in the internet. So the good, how do you safeguard the good? As you prevent children from, and in Maldives, fortunately, we have a model. The second part you might consider with regard to your legislation is how do you empower the police service to systematically invest in making the internet safe. So your challenge today, Your Excellencies, is to have a multi-sectoral approach to legislation, a legislation that would affect so many sectors. And in this case, the police service becomes a major player. And the third dimension is how do you make the providers responsible? So that then becomes your providers. So those are three approaches that we would like to suggest, and we would be happy to work with you to bring down solid technical support to contribute to your deliberations. So that would be my response to the issue of the internet and its usage. I don't know whether you want to add something, Your Excellencies.
Thank you. I would also like to add to what Eddie had mentioned about the legislation pertaining to internet service. I think one of the gaps that we have seen is that there is no legislation which mandates the service providers to put down materials and sites which have negative implications. So I think bringing in a legislation to control those kind of sites and to mandate people to report on those sites, I think that will be something that we can that should be done. In terms of the laws, one of the points I would like to highlight is, as Eddie had mentioned previously, the gap that we see currently with children in conflict with law is that interpretation of one particular area, which is children below 15 is mentioned in the law as children who needs protection, and for protection, it's the Ministry of Social and Family Development, then the Gender Ministry, who was mandated to provide protection, and then DJJ, Department of Juvenile Justice, and the Ministry for Homeland Security to provide services for those children. So the gap is when we don't have anyone to provide that protection, those who are to provide the services, they don't come in. So that's the gap between, or the challenge between two institutions working together. So if we are working on the legislation, I think that needs to be very clearly defined in terms of like what do we mean by providing protection services, and what do we mean by providing rehabilitation services for those children who have been exposed to crimes or who have behaviors that's not acceptable in the community. So I think we need to look at those gaps, and that had been a discussion and a challenge that had been going on for last 5 years from the time the two laws came in. That the fight had been like, no, there are children in conflict with law, so it's not my mandate. And then from the other side, they said, but you're supposed to provide the protection services. We will provide the other rehabilitation services. Can you provide protection for those children? So that debate between who provides the protection and who provides the services had been the biggest challenge. And the current model that we are trying in Formula is trying to bring them together and saying, yes, you have these are the things that you will do. These are the things that the other institutions are going to do. So trying to break that wall between different institutions and looking at the child. So our focus is on this child needs help. The child needs help because the family is in this situation and they are being exploited by adults into crime. So how do we protect them from being exploited by adults who want them to commit the crimes, and support the family to keep them safe, and then provide that services for the child or rehabilitation programs for the child to change those behaviors. So looking at those. So I think we need to really have that picture and then write it down in a way so that everyone is clear of what they're supposed to do, and do not have that debate of like it's not my mandate, it's your mandate. And while not looking at the child grows from 9 years to 12 years to 13 years to 15 years and wait till they become 15 to label them as a criminal and then go into the criminal justice system. So I think the early interventions are things that could have been done for a lot of these children who are now 15-year-olds and who are in the system. So just wanted to mention that as if you are working on the changes to those two legislation, those are the things that we need to look at. There might be other areas, and as Eddie mentioned previously, it's also we haven't actually implemented those legislations, so we don't know what's not working. If we have just kept the law by the side and not implemented, we don't know what's doable and what's not doable and what are the gaps in the legislation. It's just that we don't have those services that's mandated by the two legislations. If we can get those services, I think they are quite strong, and we have been, as Eddie mentioned earlier, internationally from different countries, they have looked at the laws and said how what they would like to take from those the good things. That there are so many good things in the laws. So just wanted to mention that. Thank you.
Since the constituents of my constituency know that I'm meeting with the UNICEF today, one of them has sent me a question to ask. And this is not regarding the UNICEF Maldives, but UNICEF as a whole, and maybe a little controversial question, but maybe Dr. Eddie might not be able to answer it here and now, but something that is of interest and personal interest as well, regarding the vulnerable children who are suffering in Gaza. As an institution, as UNICEF as a whole, what are the measures that UNICEF has taken in fighting the rights of children of Gaza? Could you please light on this?
Anytime the issue of Gaza comes up, as a human being, I bow down my head in shame. First of all, I speak as a human being and as a father. So, with your permission, I'll speak first as a human being. 44,000, 45,000 people should not die in 2024. So many homes should not be destroyed. For me, what we see on TV every day is a blot on our humanity. And anytime I see it, I sometimes I feel like shedding tears, and sometimes I shed tears. I think humanity has failed each and every one of those children. There's no question about that. And I thank your government for continuously raising that issue at the highest level. Because the government of Maldives has continuously raised this issue at the Security Council level. It's a failure of humanity. It's a failure of the institutions that we have set up. And like we did for the Second World War, I hope one day we would all wake up and say never again. And I'm always very sad when I see it happening in my time. So, Excellency, thank you for allowing me to be emotional on this. It's a very emotive issue. UNICEF condemns it. UNICEF condemns everything that is happening in Gaza. And our view as an institution is that those children have died needlessly. We need peace, and we also need humanitarian access. And we also need, and this is my ask to the government, we also need, when we have peace, to invest in rehabilitation and rebuilding. And we need investment in healing. Because these children and their families who survive would be in pain. The scars of Gaza will live with us for a long, long, long time. So that's the official position of UNICEF, and that's my own personal position. I, as a human being, I bow down my head in shame that this is happening at our time. And UNICEF will continue to do that. That's what I was asking my colleague. We make it a point every time, even though our mandate, my responsibility is more towards Maldives. We are part of a global network. And even in our World Children's Day statement, we acknowledge that we have a problem. And so, in some ways, I'm bringing it back to you and through you to His Excellency the President, to continue to make this case at the Assembly, to begin to continue to help in reforming the institutions that decide, and to move away from paralyzing the institution for the protection of humanity. So, I don't know whether I've answered your question, but I hope you have heard me on this.
In terms of UNICEF, UNICEF is on the ground in Palestine as we speak. There have been a lot of loss of human beings, staff in Gaza. They are working. They are also pushing for the humanitarian assistance to go in quickly. I think for the first time UNICEF was able to send some of the vehicles into Palestine yesterday. They have gone in with some staff and for providing humanitarian assistance. So there is UNICEF as an organization is also pushing for that, because for us we are also looking at how they can at the ground level provide support. So I think I just wanted to mention that as well. Thank you.
It is indeed a very overwhelming issue, and thank you so much for the information. I'm sure this meeting is live and they would be able to hear the person who sent the question. And also, we have closure, yes. But still the floor is open. If you have any comments or any questions to ask from UNICEF representatives, please do. Yeah, she's the chair of our social committee here. So yeah, so they were having a meeting. Anyways, if honorable members don't have a further comment or question, would like to conclude the meeting with your permission. Yeah, please do.
So Madam Chair and committee members, today the dilemma you face as you review the laws, the legislations, is whether a child who is less than 15 who has committed a crime is a victim or a criminal. That is your dilemma today. I promise you that UNICEF will stand by whatever the government decides. Whatever you decide, we will continue to work with you, because for us, we believe a child is a child, and will continue to support the country on whatever decision it makes. But that is your dilemma. That's your decision. We are available to provide any information that you need, any support that you need as you decide. It's not an easy decision, but it's your decision, and that's why your people have put you in this space. So please, someone has called us. If you need any information, we'll provide it. The next issue is, please challenge us. Challenge us, even if you change the law, which we hope you will not, but if you have to, challenge us to implement it. Challenge us to work together, because that is the gap that we are seeing, working together for the children. Because you don't divide children, you don't divide people. Unfortunately, our children get divided into sectors, but you can never divide a child, you can never divide people. So challenge us to work together, because where Maldives has reached, you've done a lot. The next frontier is about working together. So thank you very much for having us. We appreciate the work you are doing. We appreciate the challenges. We appreciate your leadership, and we appreciate your wisdom. And we'll stand by you, whatever you decide. we are not fighting, we are together. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and we don't take as we are fighting, but we always think UNICEF as an ally, as a friend of ours, and then we have a common goal that we are working towards, and would like to assure you that we will do a consultative process before bringing any major change, and if it comes to another committee also, it's the mandate of our committee to protect and to look into the rights of respective, whether it's children or adults. So we will make sure that, and we will ensure that. Thank you so much for your time, for your contribution, for your wise words, and